Good evening, everybody. It's another Saturday. It's another episode of the Love Again podcast. Thank you for hanging out with me. I've been away for a couple of weeks, but I think I had midterms and then had to go back to Chicago. So I just had a lot of things going on. But thank you all for asking about when the new episodes of the podcast. And we're back. I'm back. And so we're closing out on our year, so I only have a few episodes left. I think we got some really, really good episodes left, and I'm excited about that. And then we got a brand new year with a brand new focus coming up for next year. My guest today um, doesn't know that I'm using her as a guinea pig to test drive and an idea. So, oh,
Yeah,
she's okay with that. Good evening, everybody who's hanging out. Victor is here. Hey, praise the Lord. Quinella, hey, how are you? All of you all who are hanging out. Um, I've been asked by people, when am I going to talk to married people? Um, people who have found love and talk about their experience. I wanted to focus this year, for the most part, on people who were single. I've had some one-on-one conversations with a couple of my brothers who are married, but next year we're going to focus on not just the desire or the wanting of love, but what it's like to be in it and to experience it and talk to people about, is it all it cracked up to be and all the like. And so today we finna test drive this
oh shoot.
and see how it goes. And see,
All right.
got some new questions. Just go
Man,
test.
and I rehearsed those questions, man.
Got some new stuff. So we're gonna test drive to see how it go. It can go either way. And here's what I know. I think it's gonna be enlightening and entertaining. The person I'm gonna introduce to you is a new friend of mine. Um, we have a mutual friend who I guess is one of his gifts. He has many gifts, but it's bringing people together. And so since I met Victor, I have more Jamaicans and more people who are from Connecticut are in my life, right? Right. So, and I'm enjoying all of it. It's absolutely wonderful. But we met, we share space. I hear that term a lot, share space. I'm
Sure,
not
sure.
fully understanding. Somebody explained it to me one time, but we'll figure it out later. But we share the same space on a podcast, Hello Beautiful People podcast with Victor George, and he brought us all together. Technically, I guess we're like the Wu Tang. There's a lot of us, basically, and we. It's like the Wu Tang, and I guess this is what being in a big group like, because I'm sure like there was just some concerts where ODB just couldn't find them, and so somebody else had to step in and like trade off, lineups, because sometimes people make it and sometimes people don't, and that's kind of like what the podcast is. But she's a friend of mine. We're going to talk about her work, going to talk about her life and all the like. She's a brand new friend of mine, very funny, very smart, um, great accent. We'll talk about the accent a little later on. The one and only Tylisa Cosby. How are you?
Hello.
How are
How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm blessed, highly favored. I'm here. I'm glad to be
Wonderful, wonderful. In Connecticut,
all day.
somebody's got to be from Connecticut, and so here you are. You're a chosen vessel.
I
And so, how are you? Good.
yes, I am good.
Wonderful. That's good. Thank you for taking the time to come out and hang out. Um, Tara Cummings, you know her?
Yep. That's my
Okay.
best.
Yeah. Well, she said that's my best friend. I assume she wasn't talking to me, so I just so that's why I'm asking you.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I tried to think that I know that I have a best friend named Tyra. I was like, I don't think so. So it's got to be talking about you. So
Yep.
okay, I'm glad you're here. And thank you for taking the time out from family and all the duties, and sharing your time with me. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Um,
having thank you for having me.
you're welcome. First things first. Let me say this: your name is spelled with only one A. Forgive me. I have it in my phone with two A's. I just know. I think I like the way it looks, but that's just me. Like it. That's not so. So
Okay, so just
right, when
extra
you
A.
told me, I was like, I should change it, but I like how that looks. No,
You
it just
never changed it. So I'm like,
didn't change it. Yeah, I didn't. I was like, I like how it looks. You should think about adding another A, but
okay.
no, yeah, no. So I think this is what everybody wants to know right off the top at the show is that do you have anybody in your family named William or Camille?
No,
No?
no.
You sure?
Positive.
Have you checked?
Yes.
Okay. Because that would be like have buying a lottery ticket and then won and then you never follow back up, like to
No.
check to see if it was this.
I'm married into that name.
Does he have anybody in his family name?
No,
Oh.
no.
Hmm.
Unfortunately,
That's what I'm saying. Did you know that before you named? It's like, wasn't.
I asked. I said, "Is there any relation to Bill, or
Yeah,
like what we doing here?"
yeah, yeah. And you married him anyway. That's
Uh,
love. That's love. We'll get to that a little later on. You got to love somebody if their last name Cosby, and you be like, you ain't married to Bill, but I'll do this anyway. That's love. That's love. So we'll talk about all that later. Okay, so now that we got that out the way, I'm interested in Black people and the diaspora. I am interested in our our landing in America and then where we find ourselves as Black people. Right? I was in a institutional racism class one day, and my professor, old cranky, really smart Black guy, Black man, says that Chicago ain't nothing but a suburb of Mississippi. And he said it so matter of factly, I had to think. I was like, wait a minute. And then when I thought about it, I realized. I mean, it dawned on me that my family migrated from Mississippi to Chicago. Like you could call it literally a suburb of Mississippi because a lot of Black Mississippians or Black people in the South came to up north to Chicago, and that's how I found myself in Chicago. But Black folk in Connecticut, okay?
here we go.
No. I'm so interested. Like of all the places, right? That Black people could find themselves in America. And I know we spread out, but Connecticut, right? You didn't grow up with a baseball team, uh, a basketball team. Yeah, UConn. You did, and UConn is a great women's team. So
Yeah,
there's that. But I'm interested. Like, how did you find yourself as a Black family in Connecticut?
I'm not sure. We all were born and raised here. I know my father. I did like the ancestry, and I know that my father, his family, is originally from Mobile, Alabama. So they migrated um, to West Haven. My mother side of the family, when I did that, it said that they were like from like Louisiana area,
Mhm,
Carolina.
mhm,
But I don't really know exactly
mhm,
why
mhm,
or who
mhm.
came here.
I really need you to find out. That's so interesting to me. Like of all the places to end up in Connecticut, and so I'm sure that had to be as everybody's a unique experience to grow up in Connecticut. It doesn't seem like it's the blackest place in the whole wide world. Like I
It really has some black spots to it, just like I feel like every place does, right? So, I mean, we have Yale, Ivy League.
damn, that's a black space.
No, but right
Oh,
around the corner or right down the street is the hood.
hmm hmm
Isn't that kind of like Howard or
wait,
no?
wait, 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 hold on.
Is it? I'm just asking.
Wait. Let's not.
Oh.
We don't have to. We don't have to get angry. With aggression. We're not talking about Howard. We're not talking about this again. Nothing to do. We talking about Connecticut. So let's stay. Let's stay there. Okay. So um no, it's not like every place else. Here's why I tell you why. Um, Blacks in Chicago don't have a space like we have, like a whole half of the city, right? So within a 10-20 mile radius, you could drive within Chicago in a certain space and never see another face except black people. Um, it's a very segregated town, but I always people say that Chicago is the most segregated city in America, and I don't see it that way. It could be because we're divided. Like Chinatown is where they are. The Polish have their areas. The Greek have their areas. Black people have their areas. The Irish have their own areas. And you could go. I thought it was fascinating to go like to Chinatown or to Greek town and see culture and different ethnicity. I didn't think that was racist or segregation. I just thought, well, that's a smart kind of layout. But I am assuming in your space, you could walk across the street and a whole different kind of existence could be happening versus, like you said, Yale. You go on Yale and it's Yale, and then go out a block outside of Yale and it's a whole nother world.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't grow up in that kind of space where those things changed for me, but they changed for you in your existence. So I'm really interested in what that was, what Connecticut was like for a young black girl growing up.
Um, it was to me it was fun. I mean, we lived in like a predominantly African American area. So
Mhm.
it was a lot of us. I mean, it was a lot of but school predominantly blacks. Like I didn't see like a white person until I went to college, and I was really culture shocked a little bit because I'm like a lot of them. Like, are they gonna do something to me?
Mhm.
So it
They
was.
might. They might. I could, could go either way. So it's a good. I'm glad you were asking yourself those questions because you gotta
It
be
was
prepared.
pretty awesome, honestly.
Mhm.
I complain growing up in New Haven, Connecticut. Okay, because there's others, cities in Connecticut, but I grew up in New Haven.
What's the difference?
It's a big difference. New Haven is the best city in Connecticut for one, and for
Okay.
two, it has it's like city. Then it could be suburban. Then it could be like it's so many different areas in New Haven.
Mhm.
Um, where it's like variety. It's like I don't know the word right now, but like it's
Mhm.
cool. I mean, now it's different, but as a kid, I felt like cool growing up. I didn't know nothing else but that, I guess. So I thought
Yeah.
how everybody was living.
Yeah, it's amazing as kids for what we weren't aware of,
Hmm.
right? Like we weren't aware that the world was a really scary, big, scary place. We weren't aware of racism sometimes because we lived, in our own space, and then um, we probably didn't know how poor we were if that was our situation because we had everything we wanted. We didn't know that there was anything outside of what we had, so we were good most of the time. I think a common thread for a lot of the people that I've talked to was our church background and upbringing, and our our religion and our faith is kind of central to, it was at least for a generation, kind of central to how we understood ourselves. And
Hmm.
um the church served as, it was a religious space, but it's also a social space where we met friends. We hung out. I'm interested in what your church upbringing, or if you had any, if that was your experience, what was that like for you?
Um, so we, our family has like a home church.
Time out, real quick. Hold on. You have earbuds,
Yeah.
okay? Because your audio is cutting just a little in and out, and I want to make sure we hear all the words that you're saying. Could you grab them?
Okay.
It's okay. Go right ahead. I'll entertain people while you're here. Hey, Greg, what's up, man? What's going on? Corey Reed, what's going on? All of you all, glad you're hanging out. To all of Tylisa's friends who don't know me from, like my grandma used to say, Adam's house cat, I thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us. I appreciate it. I'm assuming most of you all are in Connecticut, so shout out. Only people who have Connecticut hoodies are people who are from Connecticut. And
Of
that's,
course.
of course, no, absolutely. Absolutely. That works. I'm happy for everybody in Connecticut. All
Okay.
right.
Is better or
That's great. That's
okay.
great. Wonderful. So you were telling me about your upbringing, church.
Yeah, so our family had like we had a family church that we all went to and grew up in, and it was Methodist. But my
AME.
AME.
God bless.
Don't do
Can't be
that.
can't be racist, AME. You have to at least be black kind of.
We only went like almost like 2 times a month. We didn't, and we were like heavy church goers. We didn't really do like Bible Sunday school. We didn't do Bible study. We
Mhm,
just went to church on Sundays. My grandmother raised me, so she worked. So the
mhm,
days that she didn't work, we went to church on Sundays. We went to church every Easter. Um, so I guess I had some type of church foundation growing up. It's very different. Methodist is extremely, as you should know.
mhm,
Um, but it wasn't until I got older when I actually started to go and find my own, I guess, spirituality walk in church home where I fell in love, and that was at a Pentecostal church, which was
mhm,
totally different for me.
mhm. So growing up, if if you go to church 2 Sundays
hmm
out of the month, and there's 4 Sundays in the month, you always half saved. We do the math on that. That is what that is called. Y'all half
We was
saved.
all the way saved. We just didn't
Yeah,
go to church.
got you.
Like, yeah, y'all live, breathe,
Hmm.
ate
Yeah,
in
yeah.
church.
No,
But I mean, no.
yeah, no. I think you came out. I think you came up. Uh, I think you came up all right. You know, um, 2 Sundays out of the month. That's great. I mean, I don't know.
Every time I went, I got something out of it though. It was an experience for me, which was something that I needed at that time in my life, going through things, with family and stuff and trying to navigate who I am as a teenager. That was hard. So those 2 Sundays was helpful for me, honestly.
And you said as you got older, you found a church on your own. Do you remember how old you were when you
Yeah,
found?
I was 22.
Oh, okay, okay. So you're in college.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's pull back a minute
Okay.
before we get to you in college. A lot of how we understand love is shaped by our environment. I'm wondering for you, where did your definition of love come from? Um, and was it? This is the second part. Was it talked about? What did you all? Did someone teach you and say this is what this is, this is what it's not, or was it just seen and straight and you just kind of observe like, oh, this is what love is?
um I don't know how deep we get in here, but I know
We're here.
young when I was younger and I lived with my parents, I seen love different than
Hmm.
when I started to live with my grandmother.
Hmm.
So love to me, and I had to work through this in therapy. As I got older, the love that my parents shown was like fight, 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 argue, 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 have sex, and make up. So I thought that that was love. Like that's so okay. But it wasn't until I moved with my grandmother and she showed me. She didn't verbally like say, "Hey, this is love. This is how you love." She showed me love. She was affectionate. She told me she loved me. She hugged me. We did things together. She she did the best that she could as an older woman raising a young girl at that time and then working. She always worked. So, but she showed us. Well, she showed me um, what love was, and I had like these two different examples, I guess, in my mind for a very long time, and it kind of got challenging in my relationships, honestly.
Hmm. Um, how old were you when you started to live with your grandmother?
I was about what 7?
Okay. Okay. So she really helped shape
Yeah,
your personality. Grandmothers are the best, aren't they?
yeah.
I mean, my grandmother was better than yours, but it sounds like your grandmother was pretty. It sounds like yours is pretty awesome too. No, grandmothers. My theory about grandmothers is that they're not as uptight as parents are. Like they're a little more, give you a little more leeway. The love is a little broader, a little warmer. Your parents are so on you, at least in mine, to raise you and make sure you're safe and you're this and you're that. Grandmothers are just let you stay up and you know watch TV and make you nice snacks and everything
Hmm.
like that. Um, and your grandmother was an older woman living in Connecticut. Did she ever tell you her story? Um,
Yeah, she was raised here as well,
in Connecticut?
and yeah. Why is that so hard for you to believe?
I don't know. Just probably because I'm 40 something now and just like meeting people who are from Connecticut, black
Have you
people.
ever been?
I have. I've
What
been.
part?
I've been wherever Yale is.
New Haven.
Yes. I went to Bishop Mo's church.
Okay.
Went to the old man. Um,
Bridgeport. Okay.
yes, I went there and we went into New Haven. So I spent 2 or 3 days in Connecticut. And I'm always surprised, like, there's black people here. Did anybody else like? Does the rest of America know that there are black people in Connecticut? Because I don't know if they told us. So your grandmother was from. She was raised there. What else
Hmm.
did she tell you?
She told me that she got pregnant at an early age. She got pregnant like at I believe 16, had 4 children, got married. Um
Pregnant at
and
16, had 4 children, and then got married.
no, got married when
Then
she
had
got
four.
pregnant. Back then that was the
16
wave.
is grown. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
She might have been younger, but she got married, had 4 children with this man, and she raised them kids. He left, and she raised them kids by herself, and it was hard for her.
How did that story and listening to that, um, what did it tell you about her? And how did it inform you? Because I think oftentimes as young people, if we are young people, I think we're full adults now, but we never ask our parents or our grandparents what is their story. And sometimes when they tell you, if you do ask them the story, what they tell you, be like, "Oh, I should have asked." I don't need you to be that honest with me. So it could cut both ways. But what did her story teach you?
Well, it told me that how to be an independent woman, for one. And it taught me that, family's everything. She put her family first. She um, had an extremely great work ethic. Um, because it was only her, I know that there was mistakes, of course. There was things that she maybe didn't pay attention to. Like my mom, she's the oldest, so she was the second mom. Like when my grandmother went to work, she would take care of the rest of the children. So I'm pretty sure there was things that she just couldn't do. Being a 14 or 16-year-old child with, two children at the time, that's how can you do that? That's extremely difficult. So I know she dropped the ball at times, and I'm forgiven for that. Like she could have just said, forget these kids and just leave, like, my grandfather did, but she didn't do that. And she was extremely strong. And I admire her for that. She didn't have to do that. And then to raise them 4 kids and to raise me. So I have the utmost respect for her.
I hear a lot of women, black women specifically, pushing back against the whole strong, independent black woman thing, right? And kind of like shedding that for themselves, that I don't always have to be strong. Like I'm not always strong, or I don't always, being independent, is not necessarily a badge of honor. I'm
Mm-hmm.
under, I'm, I'm, I'm wondering how you process her strong independence because she had to be, versus how you understand that for your life. Did you adopt that for yourself, and does that work, or are you kind of like, I'll be strong when I need to be, but I ain't trying to do this like all the time.
Yeah, I think I definitely adopted it.
Mhm.
Um, I was, yelling, I'm a black, strong, independent woman. Like at a very early age. I don't gotta
Mhm.
depend on a man for nothing. Like all of that. All of
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But as I started to get older, I'm like, hold on, wait, I need help. Like I need support.
Mhm.
Um, I want my back rubbed. I want somebody to be there for me.
Mhm.
Um, and even transitioning into like being single and being married, that was something that I had to like shut off as well because this man was here to help me. I had a son coming in our marriage, so it was very difficult to like give up my son to someone else or to give up
I'm
the
sorry.
independence.
Was it his son too?
No, no.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, allowing somebody to come in and co-parent with you
Right,
was different. Okay. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. 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 I see that. Um, since we're here, um, so you become 14, 15, 16. You start liking boys. I'm wondering, as you're taking your definition of love into your relationships and trying to figure it out, like what was what was that like for you? Like, were you the kind of person that needed to be in a relationship? When you're in it, were you distant, or were you romantic? Like, how did love manifest in your early relationships?
So love has always been in my heart, and that was something that I always yearned for. Um, and I think it was because I didn't have the love. Well, yeah, I didn't have the love that I needed and wanted from my parents.
Mhm.
Um, so going into relationships, yes, I wanted to be in a relationship. I wasn't for the streets. Wasn't made for for the streets. So
Mhm.
I wanted to be in relationships, but my relationships were toxic. They were
Mhm.
extremely toxic. I would of course, find the tall, light skinned, handsome, guy that
I
really.
don't know how this is. I don't like how this feels.
I mean, if the shoe fits,
It's
wear it. But if it
aggressive.
doesn't, then
It's like I feel attacked. Oh, wait. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and finish. Go, go ahead and finish. Go ahead.
yep,
I'm sorry.
toxic. Because I had two definitions of love in my mind and in my heart. So, it was rough. I was a fighter.
So yeah, what were those two definitions?
So it was fight, 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 argue, argue, argue. That's what love is. But then on this flip side, love can also be sharing it with another, with the opposite sex,
Mm-hmm.
and being a woman and catering and loving, and being soft. Because even though my grandfather, they divorced, really early in their, like long time ago. But my grandmother had a boyfriend who was basically her husband, who she, was with forever, my whole life, until he passed away. But so I seen that with
Mm-hmm.
old people
Mm-hmm.
in my home. I mean, it wasn't always perfect, of course, but it was love.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that sketch in my mind of my parents at a young age, and then I'm seeing it as I grow with my grandmother and her boyfriend.
Um, I don't want to. Somebody asked this question the other day, and I thought it was a good question. And the question was, "Do you know your toxic trait?"
Yes.
Um, did you? Is it so? Is it the same now than it was then, or are we? I'm asking you, what was it then?
Oh, what was it then? I was very angry. I was
Mm-hmm.
abusive physically and verbally to men, especially, because I was so angry. I was so mad with men, and I thought I
Mm-hmm.
could fight. I thought, if you, and I think it was like a defense mechanism. Like they would hurt me emotionally, so I feel like I have to hurt them physically, even though that's not gonna help, because at the end of the day, I'm still gonna be hurt in my
Mm-hmm.
heart. They just gonna
Mm-hmm.
be hurt in their face for a couple of days.
Okay.
Is it too much? Because I could scale
No, no,
back.
no. This is great. I'm here for all of it.
Okay.
Um, at what age did you realize this probably isn't going to work, and I'm tired of being on this kind of cycle? Let me do whatever I need to do to kind of get myself out of this cycle.
22, 23, when I
Mm-hmm.
like started to develop a real relationship with God.
Mm-hmm. And this
Yeah.
was at the Pentecostal church.
Pentecostal all day. Yes.
I'm interested in because I grew up Pentecostal, so I don't know if I was necessarily I didn't choose it. It was just what we did. But from somebody from like the AME background choosing a Pentecostal church, I can understand that the singing might be great. I can understand that the worship style on Sunday could be entertaining in that you never knew what was going to happen. Like
Mhm.
it could be anything. And the preaching is good and all of those things. But sometimes those are not good enough to kind of make that space your home. So I'm interested in, what did you find to connect with there that you didn't find in the other space?
So I would say a boy, honestly.
Now, usually
My
how it happens.
my
Uh,
child's father,
mhm, mhm,
my child's father, his whole family were into church heavily.
mhm,
And he said, come to church with me one day. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I went to this church and fell in love. I
mhm,
mean, like, just like this was something that I guess at the time in my life I was yearning for, and realize,
mhm.
because I felt like I was past like the going out, the partying,
At 22,
yeah,
he was over.
I felt like that. I
Mhm,
mean, so when I met him and I started to go to his church, it was just different. It was
Mhm.
exciting. Of course, the music, but the preaching got me. I feel like,
Mhm.
Methodist, it was very uppity. It was extremely sedity to me.
Mhm.
You had to come a certain way, you had to dress a certain way. We sung hymns all day. It was no type of shouting, talking in tongues, laying hands. This is none of that. Like,
Right.
so to see that, I was just so amazed, and
Mhm.
it drew me. That drew me. But it
Mhm.
was the word. It was the pastor at the time. His word was just so on point for me. It was something that I needed, something that I wanted, and I fell in love hard. Like,
Mhm.
literally fell for Jesus, and it's not even to be cliche. I'm dead serious. Like, I just fell, and my old life, you first get saved. I'm not going around my friends. I'm not doing nothing that I used to do. Like, I got this new man. We gonna get married. We gonna have a baby. Like, we had a baby, and I mean, and it didn't go like that, but that
Mhm.
was where I was heading, and I wanted to
Mhm.
live right, and I wanted to be right, and it was just a great experience, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'm really thankful that I came up Pentecostal. Um, for one, and I think this probably is for all religion or different expressions of it. Our faith is therapeutic. In some ways, when we come to Christ, we're kind of beaten up and wounded and
Mm-hmm.
battered, and we find redemption, we find cleansing. It is a place where you can kind of purge, your old self and find some renewal that I think is important for us, and it's supported by a community that nurtures that in us. And I would rather, with all of the problems that the church has and all the critiques that I have, I would rather have it than not have it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I don't understand like people who have nothing, like to think that if for nothing else that this life is all there is, and
Right.
there's no hope for anything else other than what we experience. Like I think it's our faith, especially for Black people in America, especially for y'all in Connecticut, Black folk in Connecticut, y'all had to be filled with the Spirit. Do you hear me? I'm
Yo, what is going on right
the
now?
evidence of speaking in tongues, and that's not just because y'all Black, but because the environment that you were
Yes.
in, like y'all got to have the Holy Ghost to deal with some of that. So 22, you finally get filled with the Holy Ghost, and now you fully saved, right?
Hmm.
Going to church 4 times.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah,
It was all the time.
right. And then of course there's a boy involved, right?
Hmm.
And that's good, and that's great. And that is what it is. But you say it didn't turn out the way you thought it was going to turn out, and I'm always interested also in like nobody, especially in church, they don't tell us how to break up,
Hmm.
right? They don't tell us what to do when this doesn't work because everything is so absolute, right? That they didn't want us dating, going through all this change. You're supposed to get married. That's what it is. And so everything is absolute. And then they don't acknowledge that sometimes our relationships, even in church, they don't work out. I'm interested in how you experienced that because it's so tied into your faith. Like it's not just him, but now you're at the church that he brought you to. So now this is like really messy, and now there's the
Hmm.
baby, and that's a little another complication too. So I'm sure that was a lot, and I'm wondering what was that like for you?
It was very hard. As soon as I started to get serious, he started to drift away
Mhm.
because he was younger than me, and he didn't really like. He was a church kid. He didn't really live his life. He didn't know what life was really like. So he had to experience it, and he
Mhm.
left. Like, he left.
You left the church.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
he left. His family stayed, of course, because they were involved in ministry.
Mhm.
But it was hard because it's like, you brought me here and then you just abandoned me.
Mhm.
Like, and I got this kid who now I want to raise correctly,
Mhm.
and in this church, the same church that you were raised in, and it was a hard time for me, like the transition of even, you know, being engaged and then being single. Like that was, it rocked my world. Like, because that's all I ever wanted was family. Like if I was to have a child, I wanted to have both parents in a household. I wanted to be raised like, wanted our children to be raised like that because I didn't have that. And it was everything that I didn't want. And it was very hurtful. So it was a very hard time in my life, I would say.
I am in those kind of spaces. Like, there's a whole lot of dynamics going on, but I think central to um, our hurt is that we're disappointed with God's self, right? I thought this because we spiritualize everything. I thought this was the one the Lord sent me, and that I'm trying to do everything right, and da 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 da, and I'm trying to get my life together, and for things not to work out that way is a huge letdown, and so you're angry with everybody, including God, right? Like, like it could be a lot, and so I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering, did you have to work that out within your own self, within your own prayer time, not to just make peace with the who you saw, but the God that you couldn't see?
I don't think I was upset with God.
Mm,
I think I was more upset with him, the person.
mhm,
Cause I'm
mhm,
just, I mean, 22, I'm still young. 23, I'm still young. I'm still immature in some ways. So, and I still had like that, you know, that gangster still inside of me. So,
like
you know, it was
Connecticut, come
kind
out, go
of
ahead. Like this.
so it was hard. I'm like, okay, God, I'm supposed to be living right for you, but yeah, I wanted to like put on all black, find him and hurt him. Like I want to do some things.
Mhm,
But I drowned myself in church. I drowned myself in Bible study every day at every Sunday. Every time the church doors was open, I was there. That was just my life at that time. I didn't listen to no type of music like R&B, hip hop. It was gospel. I didn't do nothing that was considered worldly.
was that
I just
helpful?
at the time, yes.
Mhm,
At the time, yes. But then other stuff started to get, involved where I had to understand my own salvation because like, going to church sometimes you tend to become it becomes like a routine where you're going to, help out or to do ministry where, somebody will say like, well, if you ain't at church, you must be sinning. No, why just can't be at home with my family?
mhm,
So stuff then that stuff started to be birthed. So that was hard.
mhm,
So all this
mhm,
stuff is new to me and I'm alone in it.
mhm.
So
Um, yeah, I think around that age, and I think as I looked over my shoulder, there have been plenty of times where I'm absolutely angry with God, um, and could find it very difficult to pray, um, and to kind of, you know, have a desire to even um, talk to God. Like, I'm like, I don't even want, like, I'm not trying. um, but there is a time when we come to recovery, and
mhm.
I'm always interested in how we heal, right? That you say you were younger, you were 22, you were a kid. I mean, all right, looking back now, like, what does a 22-year-old know about anything, right? And at that moment, we thought we knew everything for the most part. I assume. But some kind of way, you found yourself a space to recover. And I'm interested in, like, what was the ingredients of your recovery and healing like for you?
it it took time. Um I don't know. Like I think it was hard to really say what and how because he was still around. Like he was still a part of his son's life and he was still hurting me. Even though we weren't together, like he was still hurting me.
Mhm.
So it was kind of hard to heal from something that was continuously hurting you. Like there
Mhm.
was no let up for me. Um so I would say like therapy. I started to go to therapy. Like I quit and I started and I quit and I stopped because I didn't find the right therapist. That was another
Mhm.
thing. Especially someone that can connect with me as a woman and as a black woman. It was hard. So I would say, it was therapy and just like being a mom,
Mhm.
just living, just going through the motions, just going through it because I didn't really have. I mean, of course, I had a support system. I had friends, I had family, and everybody, was there for me. But inwardly, like my heart was broken for a very long time because I never really healed from the breakup for once. And then when we do break up, now you're just constantly keep doing the wrong thing. So I would say, I guess therapy, and it took like years, like a long time.
At what age did you start going to therapy?
Um, maybe like 30,
Okay.
like
Um.
27 to 30. I was like starting and quitting.
Mhm.
But like I found a therapist maybe about like a real good therapist maybe about like 3 years ago.
So, you mentioned something that you had to find a good therapist,
Yeah.
um, and for our generation, it's more common. But for like our parents, grandparents, that therapy was not an option for them. And sometimes people stop on their journey of doing therapy because they don't have the right therapist. And so I just kind of want to give, people some language on um, what makes a good therapist and how do you find one, in terms of what are you looking for in the therapist and through this relationship, and that you can keep looking. If you haven't found the right one, you can try something else instead of quitting the process altogether. What made you keep searching for that for yourself?
Um, the the different therapists that they were recommending, I guess they were all white women.
Hmm.
I don't think they just didn't do nothing for me. Like they were not seasoned enough. Like they like, and I have like a big personality, so I need like some strength. I need, someone that's gonna give it to me raw. I don't need Karen patting me on the back saying it's not gonna be a right Karen because you don't know my life. Like you don't know my life. So it was like these white women. Then I'm like, well, maybe I need a man. Then it was a white man. He was cool, but it just wasn't a real connection. Then I met like this mixed woman who was very different. And she just was very book smart. And that's another thing. You have therapists that's just like so smart intelligently, but they just don't have no common sense. So I would say I stumbled on my therapist, who's my therapist now, just by a friend. And before then, I also went to an evangelist who condemned me and rebuked me in the first session. And I'm like, it was terrible.
This was a licensed therapist.
Yes. And she was like, she asked me questions and stuff, and I told her I was saved, and she was like, "Oh, you supposed to know better, honey." Mm-mm.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it. Yeah,
I hate it too.
yeah, I
So
hate it. Yeah.
I'm like, I
I
definitely don't want no therapist that's gonna be like that.
Yeah, and I think also to add to that, and I think there's a balance there, but I appreciate a therapist who has no necessarily context or maybe even respect for my religion and my faith. And I say
Mm,
that because most of the issues that we're dealing with are not issues of faith. They can affect us spiritually. But what I need you to do, because sometimes our hurt comes from that space,
hmm.
but we love that space and we are so loyal to that space, we won't be honest about that space. We won't be truthful about the people who are in that space who have harmed us. And so we come into therapy protecting that space. I think it's important for you to have a therapist who be like, yeah, no, don't hide behind scriptures, religion. None of these people are in the room right now. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about you. Um, and that makes a difference between someone who is overly spiritual and come at you with like, oh, you supposed to know better, rebuke the devil, da da da. Well, if I'm gonna do that, then why am I paying you to be here? I could have done that like for free.
At church.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's important, especially listen, I am an advocate for black people and black Pentecostals specifically. Y'all find some therapy. Like y'all need to go and sit down
Man.
with somebody.
And the therapist that I have now, I didn't even know he was saved. So
Mhm,
when we
mhm.
started to build, a rapport, I told him I shared, my faith with him, and it's totally he's I mean, for I think the reason why we connect so much is because he's not from America. So
Mhm.
he doesn't have that church world. He doesn't have like
Mhm.
those those church I can't even
I
talk.
know.
Yes, like he doesn't have that. Like he's just and it's not like led by faith. It's
Right.
like you said, it's like you the individual who you are. And
Mhm.
he incorporates faith, of course, because that's what we do, but it helps me. But I would have never known because I would have probably went to him if I would have
Right.
known that.
Yeah. One of the things that I had to learn how to do is what therapy has taught me that I started doing therapy. I was 27, I believe. I was 27 when I went to therapy. And I still have my same therapist. I was really, really blessed. Um, but one of the things that I learned that I didn't know how to do is that I didn't know how to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't know how to tell the truth about what things were. I was telling a truth, but rewriting it as
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling it to protect people, to protect me, to protect things and spaces or whatever. And she really, really pushed me. It was like, look, if you're not going to tell the truth, why are you coming? Like,
Right.
and I was like, I had to admit, like, I don't know how to be honest about these things because we say that church is a place of truth and blah blah blah. Not all the time, not about everything. Um, and so I needed a space that wouldn't let me hide behind the Holy Ghost and Bishop so and Mother so and all of that. Cared nothing about that. Like,
Right.
no, what happened and this is what it is, and this is what you have to deal with. And people think, therapy is all fun and games till they put you in a corner and like won't let
Man. Man.
you leave therapy, you crying and you mad, like,
That's when you know you got a good therapist though.
yeah, yeah. And it has made all the difference in the world in my life. But at some point, you begin to heal, right?
Yeah.
And then you meet Brother Cosby, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm interested in how we fall in love again.
Mm,
It's easy. Well, I don't say it's easy. It may be natural to do it the first time. Whatever
mm-hmm.
your first love was, it's natural. But that second time. oof, it's a lot. It's a little, a little harder.
Like,
It's a little more effort you have to put into it. And so I'm interested in, why him, and how did you experience that, and how did you know that you were falling in love, and what made you want to do this forever, and all of that kind of stuff.
well, me and Mr. Cosby went to high school together.
Hmm.
He was a year younger, and
So you curved
um,
from very early on. Is that what you're saying?
no. We were just in the same high school. We knew each other, but it wasn't like anything romantic or anything like that.
Hmm.
Years later, 15 years later, we meet each other again and seen each other at my old job at Yale Hospital.
Hmm.
And I didn't recognize him. I'm like, yo, who was this kid? He like, hey, how you doing? Whatever. I'm like, I don't know who this kid is. But it was him, and he had lost like a lot of weight. So that's why I didn't recognize him. So, we talked and all of that. Um, Asked me for my number. At the time he was living in Georgia. So he was like, if you ever in Georgia, come down or whatever. So I'm just like, he trying to bag? Like, what's going on here? And
Yes.
um
Yeah.
so gave him my number, and that. So we talked. No, he hit me up like maybe a couple of weeks after that, just
Mhm.
stating that he wanted to take me out on a date. And I was like, nah, I'm good. Like, I got a boyfriend. At the time I didn't have a boyfriend, but I was just in a weird place in my life. So I'm like,
Mhm.
no, he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know, whatever,
Dating?
whatever. Hmm?
Were you dating at all?
I was dating, yeah. I was dating, but I wasn't dating anyone at that time. But
Mhm.
um so I started to look like on his social medias, and I'm like, yo, shorty trying to, he kind of like, I don't know what I just passed up on, but let me recircle. So I text him, and I'm like, hey, like, how you doing? And he hit me with the who this. And I'm
Mm.
like, who this? And I'm
Mhm.
like, you know who it is. Stop playing. I know you say my number. He like, nah, I really don't know who this is. Like, who are you? Said
Mhm.
my name, whatever, whatever. Make a long story short, one of my friends who's actually probably watching, I told her about it, and she was pushing me because I was like, nah, I don't think
Is this Elise?
yes, it is
Okay.
Elise.
She said she hooked you all up. Thank you for that. I'll kind of keep chiming in here, fill in the story.
So she really did push me to like go on like that first date, because I was like, yeah, I don't know. And she knew him. Like, they
Mhm.
grew up together, so she knew him. She vouched for him, like, he a really good guy, he really sweet, he's good, whatever, whatever. So we went on our first date, and it was easy. We talked. We have the same upbringing. Um, we shared stuff like that I would never share on a first date. It was just I was so comfortable. It was like I
Mhm.
was with a friend.
Mhm.
So after that, we was talking on the phone every single day. And he lived in Georgia. So we established a friendship before he asked me to be his girlfriend.
Mhm.
And then he said that he was moving back. And I was excited. So I'm like, okay, this might actually go somewhere. Because
Mhm.
he's in Georgia. I'm in Connecticut. I didn't really know what that was, how, I didn't go into thinking I was gonna be marriage. I just was like, hey, let's see where this goes.
Had you been out of Connecticut before?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like Georgia. Where?
Goodness. I'm not that I ain't that ignorant. Okay.
No, no, it's fine.
But
That's fair.
no, I have. So yeah, so he moves back, and he asked me to be his girlfriend.
Mhm.
So I said no.
Mhm. Of course you did. Of course you did.
I did. Cause I
Yeah.
just didn't know where I was at. I liked him so much though. Like, he was such a gentleman, so sweet. Like, the nicest person that I know. And I'm not just saying that because he's my husband. He's so sweet.
Mhm.
And
That wasn't an attractive quality for you. Right?
so you're doing a Patrick. I get it. So so I had to think about it. I'm like, okay, I'm not saying no because you're not boyfriend material. I'm saying no because I just gotta work some things out in me. But I wind up saying yes, of course. And then maybe what, that next December he proposed.
Mhm.
And I just knew. Like, you know how people be like, oh, I just knew. I just had I really just had a feeling that this was going to be the man for me. He was
Mhm.
everything that I needed. He was everything that I needed. He's a people's person where I feel like I'm not. He's very grounded where I feel like I could be all over the place. He's very sweet and genuine where I feel like everybody's out to get me. Like he's just the opposite of me, but it's so he compliments me, I would
Mhm.
say.
Mhm.
And I just knew it. And of course I said yes. And we got married 6 months later.
So I want to go back for a minute because he comes back to Connecticut and he asks you to be his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Your reflex is to say no. Um, that's interesting because sometimes life presents us with what we want,
Mm-hmm.
what we say we want, and then when it's there, our reflex is to always reject it. Like,
Yep.
what is that reflex in us that when what we want, prayed about, thought about shows up, like all of a sudden it gets real and it's too scary for
Mm-hmm.
us. And like, I don't know.
That was exactly it. Like,
Yeah.
yo, this it felt too good. So this can't be true. But my friend Elise, she was saying, but why can't it be? Like, why this can't be your forever? Like, it can be, and you can obtain it, you can have it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great question. Why do we think that we can't? Because of like all the BS that happened in the past?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question, and I think right off the top of my head is that I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and we were talking about something like this, but it was like he was like, I don't know. He was telling me that stuff in his life doesn't bother him as much as it used to bother him, and he doesn't know why he's not freaking out over stuff that he used to freak out over. And I said, it might be because being healed
Mm,
is a foreign feeling sometimes. Like we don't when you're used to pain, we understand that. Like we'll live with that. But if something feels good to us, it's like this has to be wrong. Like
mhm,
um I question myself when we question ourselves when we get this experience that's not painful, but we associate love with pain. And so if love doesn't hurt me, then I question if this is love at all.
man, that's my life. You preaching.
Not on purpose, but we just talking. We just having this conversation. And so I think we have to learn what it feels like to be healed in order for us to understand, well, this is natural, this is what it's really supposed to feel like, this is what it feels to be loved. It's supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to be fighting and cussing out and throwing.
Hmm.
It's not. That's not. We're
Really?
used to that. I think we have to, especially in our adults, as we mature, we have to get used to a new normal sometimes, and some people find that very difficult to do.
It is. And I
Yeah.
think for me, I'm not, no, because now I have children. It's not just me. So if they're around that, what's gonna happen? Then they're gonna repeat that. And then their kids gonna like, I'm not doing that.
Mhm.
And I'm willing to put, and I think that's another thing. If you're willing to put forth the work and the effort to actually change and to be better and to break those generational curses and those cycles in your life and those behaviors, then that's the first step. But if you're willing to, if you're just saying, oh, this is me, I hate when people say that. No, this is not you, ma'am. No,
Yeah.
this is not you, sir. This is just who the environment created you to be. God didn't want us to be like this.
Mhm.
Like we're supposed to be so different.
Mhm.
You know, we're royalty. So it's like, why are we acting like peasants?
Mhm.
Why are we acting like who we're not?
Yeah.
So I'm willing to put forth the effort and the work and being a better mother and being a better wife because I know, what's at risk.
Yeah, and I think two things that you said were great. Number one, I think you have to be self aware enough to know how dysfunctional I am. Like when I asked you what was your toxic trait, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people go into relationships and it goes horrible, and it's always the other person's fault. Like it's, they're never self aware enough to know like, oh, this is me. Like this isn't you. This is me, and so I need to check that. And then second part of that is nobody really wants to do the work
Mm,
to have, wholeness and to maintain that. It's a lot of work. Like it's a lot of work to do on yourself, right?
man.
And then when you have a partner and relationships bring things out of you, right? You didn't know it was there. Nobody poked it because you was alone, but
Mm-hmm.
poke the bear, all of a sudden stuff start coming up. Like, oh, I'm not as healed as I thought I was in that area, and that's work. I'm interested in what work have you done to maintain that space for you, your husband, and your family.
Yeah,
But besides
uh,
therapy, besides
right. So I
you go
agree.
to church every Sunday now. Besides that,
I do go to church every Sunday now. So I agree. Like when you're married or in a relationship with someone, I think I learned, especially first year, like being married is like looking in the mirror and I'm looking at all my flaws because he like you do this, you do this, you do this, and I'm like, whoa, wait, like
Mhm.
nah, and it was very difficult. So of course, therapy, church, but I journal.
Mhm.
I do a lot of writing,
Mhm.
and it has helped um because what's the word? I'm an external list, I guess. Like if I feel a way, I'm saying it. I don't keep that in. That's dangerous for me. So I'm just vomiting what I'm feeling, my emotions, my thoughts, which can, be harmful as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I need I need to write this down because I might be headed for a divorce soon.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
um so writing has helped, and
Mhm.
it puts me into like a sound place because I go back and I read those journal entries and I'm
Mhm.
like, wow, there has been growth.
Mhm.
I can see it in my writings. Like so like, I have also learned how to communicate effectively. Still learning
Mhm.
because my husband, he's the opposite of me. He holds things in.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, why don't you just talk? Just talk. Just talk. He just doesn't talk. Like he holds things in.
Mhm.
So I'm still learning how to communicate with him and my delivery and then coming to him and being, soft and um, just being understanding that his communication style is not like mine.
Mhm.
And to giving him that grace. It's all a learning curve, I feel like. And we've been married for 4 years
Mhm.
and like we're still babies at this, I feel like.
Yeah. It's interesting, and it seems like you met the right person because you say he balances you out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That um and that counterbalance is important. But also that counterbalance will get on your nerves, right? Because we live our lives subjectively. We filter everything through ourselves. And so we evaluate people's responses, their maturity sometimes based off what I would do, right? And so I think you're mature. You can communicate if you talk as much as I talk and you say what I say, or you feel like I feel. And the reality is that if you had somebody in your life who was just like you, like I'm not
My
sure.
Lord.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the sustainability of that, and not just you. I'm talking about like for me or for
Mm-hmm.
anybody. Like if we get so we bring somebody in our lives who is just like us, then we never see the worth of being in a relationship and have somebody pull us outside of ourselves. Like everybody didn't have to think like me. Everybody have to say everybody have to feel the way I feel. There are other people, other humans who are having experiences that are
Mm-hmm.
not mine, that are just as valid as mine, and that's okay. But that could cause some tension too when you're trying to get something out of someone the way you would get it out of you. And
Right.
I'm interested in like how do you in those moments where it's like you and this is what we don't I don't know if you say this. We shouldn't say this. You should be like me and do it
Mm-hmm.
like the way I do it. When you find somebody who's not cooperative, as well, they shouldn't be. Along those lines, how do you all work through um, those kind of moments?
Man, we still working through them things. I ain't gonna lie. Cause he shuts down and I don't. And I'm a fixer. I want to fix it and I want to move past it and I want to just go on in life. I
Mhm,
don't want to harbor, you know. So I learn what I'm learning is that I give him a space for some, for some time. I give
mhm,
him some space to let him cool off.
mhm,
And I'm the one that comes to him, even though sometimes it can be annoying. But I'm learning that I'm gonna be the one to be the bigger person right now in the season of our marriage, I guess. And to come to him and to be humble, which is
mhm,
very hard. Like and to say like, okay, so what went wrong here?
mhm,
What did I do wrong? Or, what did you hear? Because sometimes that can play a piece too. Like you may hear something, but that's not what I meant. Or you may assume something, but that's not what I did. So I think it's just, coming to him like when things are calm and then communicating effectively and not in a rah-rah way, but in a way that he can hear me and I can hear him.
mhm,
Because I think that's what it's about. It's about hearing his heart, hearing my heart. Because everybody wants to be heard.
mhm.
So I would say that we're still learning that.
And I'm going to assume that it's going to be a lifelong learn, right? Because who you are now is not who you'll be 10 years from now, right?
Yeah.
So where you let people change and you change and hold hands all in the process. Um, you all have children, and I'm interested in that adds another layer of intimacy, hopefully, and responsibility on the marriage. I'm interested in what you all do to stay connected when you're, dealing with the needs of kids and the world around you. How do you all keep relocating each other in the midst of all of the responsibilities and stuff you got going on?
Well, like I stated before, I came in the marriage with my son,
Hmm.
which was older, which, he wasn't like a little baby. So
Hmm.
it was actually it was easy because like he was he could do everything himself. Like, so if we wanted to go out and have a date night, you know, there was times that he could stay home by himself, or, you know, he can be with my grandmother and be take care of himself.
Mhm.
Now that we have this baby, it's
Mhm.
very difficult. Like, it's extremely difficult because we don't have a lot of support system here,
Mhm.
and um, we live like 30 minutes away from where my family lives.
Mhm.
A lot of his family's in out of state, so he doesn't have a lot of family here.
Mhm.
So it's hard. Like, I feel like we probably went on like our second date since our daughter's been born last night. So, you know, when we're in a house, it's just all about the baby, right? As of right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but we're trying.
Mhm.
We're trying.
What are your and I'm gonna let you go in a few minutes. I'm gonna thank you for this. What do you ultimately hope to experience from love?
That's a good question. Man. Um, like a freedom.
Mhm.
I want to be free. Um, Free to love him the way that I know he needs to be loved,
Mhm.
not like with no restrictions on it. Um, and also, we talked about healing. So,
Mhm.
really, like, I think that, you know, love is a powerful force, a powerful source that we can tap into, and it can also heal us. And I think because of the things that we've experienced in life, and if I'm loving you properly, I think that's something that can help with the healing journey.
Mhm.
So I would say freedom and healing.
Okay. That's beautiful. That's,
Are you just being funny, or is that really
no,
beautiful?
I think that's I absolutely think that absolutely beautiful. And I no, for all the things we could ask or expect from love, I think those things that you mentioned are probably the most important. So I think I think it's great. I'm gonna let you go. Here are the 5 questions. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Do you believe in love at first sight?
Yes.
Okay. What has love taught you?
Whoa. Um, love has taught me. Love has taught me, man, that it's not violent, that it's not toxic,
Mhm.
that it doesn't have to hurt, and that it's not blind. Eve was a liar. Like Eve, when she sung that song, "Love Is Blind."
I was like, even the Bible is
Not
blind.
even the Bible. That's what I said.
She's blind. I had to think real quick. But oh, you talking that Eve? I got you. No, I get it. You're right.
Okay.
It's not. I agree, and I agree with you. Love should have your eyes wide open to the truth. So I'm with you. Okay. Um, what do you believe about love now that you didn't then?
That true love is real, that it's not a facade, and that I can obtain it,
Hmm.
and I can have it, and it belongs to me. Where in the past I didn't think that.
Okay, that's great. Next question. What makes a good lover?
Ooh. It's PG-13 or what are we doing here?
Do what you do. I'm here for it. We everybody grown, so I asked the question. So go.
Ooh, who makes a good lover? Man, I would say a lover who who's accountable, who can admit like their wrongs, like accountability.
Mhm.
To me, that's a good lover.
Okay. Last question. What brings you joy?
What brings me joy? It could be anything, like the Lord Jesus Christ. Like,
Okay, we got that.
what brings me joy?
Anything else? Is there anything
What brings me joy? What brings me joy is seeing people healed,
else? Mhm.
seeing someone that has had a rough life, rough time, and they overcome that. That brings me joy.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been so
I know
fun.
it was good. I told you, there's nothing to worry about. It
I
sounds
was nervous because I don't know which way you're gonna go sometimes, Patrick. You know
oh,
you.
nah, who, me? We just
Don't do that. Don't
we
do
just
that. Cause
we're always all we do is chopping it up. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule away from
yes.
your family. Tell your husband we're praying for him, and
Why are you praying
we
for
lift
him?
we're just lifting him up. We gotta keep him keep keep bro covered. Like it's just
That's
at
funny.
all. But no, but thank you for hanging out. Hopefully you'll come back. Hopefully maybe both of you all can come back.
Yeah, anytime, Patrick.
That would be great. I would love that.
I
So
would
thank
like to
you.
have you on my podcast next. Okay.
Absolutely. Tell me I'm there. Let's do it.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Thank you for everybody, all of these people from Connecticut that I that I don't know, but you know your girl. So thank you for hanging out with us. Hopefully you come back. You can check out some old episodes of the podcast. We have great conversations with enlightening and wonderful people like Tylisa. So thank you, Tylisa. Thank you for all you all who hung out with us all this time. We'll be back next week for another episode. Till then, be safe. Take care. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.